I helped this man save his marriage from divorce in just 2 months.
Thank you very much. I mean, without you, I wouldn't be able to be here right now. I would still be stuck in the hole, probably divorced by now, really.
When Jeff reached out to me, his wife had told him she wasn't in love anymore and she didn't see a future with him. Needless to say, he was starting to feel pretty hopeless.
We were falling apart. My wife said that she loved me, but she wasn't in love with me. Um, my wife was secretly texting with somebody else. Um, and I know that I needed to do something, but I couldn't figure out what it was.
This is a very common issue for men facing divorce. They know they need to do something, but they're not sure what that something is. Well, on today's video, I'm going to share with you the 3 steps that all my clients take to stop divorce and save their marriage. And be sure to watch this whole video because at the end, I'm going to share with you the key ingredient to getting your wife to check back in. And without this information, the steps that I'm going to share with you today won't be as effective. So make sure to watch this whole video if you want to save your marriage. Now, with all that being said, let's dive right in. What does it mean when your wife wants a divorce? It means she's given up. She doesn't believe that you can change. She's asked for things to change in the relationship in the past and they haven't. And now she's been forced into a decision. Do I stay with the current version of my husband and remain unhappy, or do I move on and have a fresh start? Now, your wife has been wanting you to transform, like the transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly. But rather than doing the hard inner work to do this transformation, you've been acting like a chameleon. When things would get tough in your relationship, you'd change your behavior to signal to your wife that you'd changed. But after a couple of weeks, you'd revert back to the old behaviors of being angry, emotionally unavailable, or controlling. So like a chameleon, you were changing your colors, but you weren't going through a real transformation. And this led your wife to believe that you will never change. Now, what makes the process of reconciliation that bit more challenging is when we let our ego get in the way. So as men, we convince ourselves, you know what? I know what the problem is. I can fix this on my own. And you make the false assumption that you know what the real problem is and you try to resolve that. So as an example, you tell yourself, you know what? I just didn't give my wife enough attention. So now I'm going to take her out on more dates and be more affectionate. And when it doesn't work, you get frustrated and you create a false belief that, you know what, it's not possible to save my marriage. And that's not the case. The real problem is you haven't been able to identify the root problem in the marriage, and instead you're trying to fix symptoms rather than the root problem.
It was hard to separate myself from what I was doing, which was ultimately digging myself a bigger hole in my relationship.
This unfortunately happens to so many men when they try and DIY the reconciliation process. They end up digging themselves a deeper hole, get frustrated, and then create a false assumption that it's not possible to save the marriage. So can you save your marriage when your wife wants a divorce? Yes, but you've got to stop DIYing it and start following a time-tested, proven process like the ARC system. You've got to see this as an opportunity to grow and to transform, because you're like that caterpillar in the cocoon. It's dark and it's uncomfortable, but this process is totally necessary in order for you to transform into that butterfly. So let's now look at the 3 ways that you can stop divorce. Number 1, an open mind. As men, we can be very logical and we can be headstrong and we can convince ourselves that we know the solution. And this can lead us to make mistakes with our wives by using the same logic on our wives to getting them to check back into the marriage. So maybe you'll say to your wife, you know what, this doesn't make sense financially, because how are you going to pay for stuff if we're not together anymore? You don't have a job. Or think about the kids. How are they going to deal with this situation if we're divorced? Or, you know what, I can change. So you're using logic to get her to check back in. And as we both know, your wife didn't come to this conclusion that she wanted a divorce out of logic. This is an emotional decision. So you cannot use logic to solve this problem to get her to check back in. And when we over rely on logic and are too headstrong in our beliefs, this can cause us to get tunnel vision.
As a guy, we got blinders on, we think one way and we'll go one way. But then
Yes.
if there's different options, it opens up a whole different field to play on.
It's really important for you to let go of your ego and to let go of your pride, to acknowledge that, you know what, maybe I don't know the real problem in my marriage. Maybe I do need help with this, because once you do know the real problem, new avenues are going to open up for you. Now, if you'd like help with identifying the real problem in your marriage, I'd highly recommend enrolling in my free masterclass. You can find the link down below. Enroll today. Number 2, focus on yourself. Most men get way too hung up on trying to get their wife to work on their marriage. They're trying to fix the marriage before they fix themselves, which is totally the wrong approach.
But once I was able to focus on myself and then round back to the relationship, it did a lot. It helped a lot. It made me realize how I was reacting emotionally was not the right way to go. How I was closing or shutting down and moving away on difficult questions was not the right way to go. And it made me realize that a lot of these issues was my own self doing.
If you want to save your marriage and stop divorce, you've got to work on yourself and do the work to transform before you start focusing on the marriage. Because when you do the work on yourself, you gain a new awareness with new insights, which allows you to see problems in a new light and gives you access to solutions that you never knew you had. Number 3, deeper conversations. Your wife wants connection. It's what we all want. We all want to feel seen, heard, and understood. The problem is when we don't work on ourselves, we don't know how to have deep, meaningful conversations.
My wife wanted deeper, more intimate conversations, and I just couldn't get there because I didn't know how to. But after learning the tools on how to stand in the fire and just talk, that's ultimately what they want. They just want to talk.
Now, I know you're thinking, Luke, I would love to have deeper conversations with my wife, but she won't talk to me and she's acting cold and distant. Brother, you need to learn how to reconnect with your wife. Watch this next video on the key ingredient to save your marriage.